Hello everybody. So in this video I'm going to do a hip hop group tier list. Hip hop's one of my favorite genres of all time. Some of these groups are some of my favorite groups period of all time. So let's do this tier list. Okay, let me preface this tier list with a couple of things because I know this might be controversial in a lot of ways. One, I like all of these groups, right? If you get an F, it's not like I think you're an F tier group. It's all relative to the other groups that are on the tier list, right? So it's relative to who I think's superior, where you fall under that group. I listen to all these groups. I rock with all these groups. I'm a fan of all these groups. Second off, I know there's a lot of groups not on this tier list. There's not Salt and Peppa. There's not Ghetto Boys. There's not Goody Mob. I want to stick to groups that I was familiar with. I don't want to rank groups that I don't know their discography very well. Like Salt and Pepper's cool and everything, but I just don't know their discography very well. So I just skipped them. Now, who do we have here? We've got a slew of different groups. We've got Beastie Boys, Big Timers, Black Star, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Brockhampton, City Girls, Clips, D12, De La Soul, G Unit, Gangstar, Mobb Deep, NWA, Public Enemy, Ray Shrummer, Run DMC, Run the Jewels, Wu-Tang Clan, UGK, Tribe Called Quest, TLC, 3 Mafia, The Roots, and the Fugees. Okay? That's every group that I'm going to rank on this tier list. They are popular groups that I also listen to a lot that I felt like I could tier in a somewhat respectable manner. Let's get to it. I'm going to start with the Fugees. Okay. I love the Fugees. I've seen Lauryn Hill live in concert. She's an icon. The way they structure their songs, the creativity they put into their albums, I don't think maybe a couple groups come close to their creativity, their diversity, their lyricism, all that stuff. Now, do I want to put them at superior right from the bat? For me personally, right? Again, this is subjective for me. It is not really a political list. I mean, it's somewhat political, but not really. I'm going more subjective. I'm going to go ahead and put them in A. Now, some people might say, Sam, you're crazy. They should be in S tier. I hear that. And I battle with that, but I'm going to go with A for the Fugees. Next up, we got the Roots. I'm not the biggest Roots fan in the world. I think that they've got two iconic members in the group. And the musicians in the group are probably some of the great musicians of hip hop. But to me, when I think of the Roots, I think of Black Thought and I think of Questlove. Like Black Thought to me is one of the best rappers of all time. Questlove, one of the most iconic hip hop drummers and DJs of all time. But to me, when I go into their discography, it's not something that I'm as motivated by or pulled in by as, say, something like the Fugees. People might talk down for me on this, but I'm going the Roots C tier. And again, these guys are all S tiers, right? This is like ranking the best of the best, right? So I love the Roots, but relative to the Fugees, I'd take them down 2 tiers, right? Next up, we got 3 Mafia. 3 Mafia to me is like the group of my early teens. Like they were popping in like the early to mid 2000s. I used to listen to them all the time. They had, I think, even a reality show on MTV that I used to watch. I love 3 Mafia. Kings of the South. I'm going B tier for 3 Mafia. Next up, I'm going to go up here to Beastie Boys. The Boys of the Beast. I think the only white group we have in this. Yep, the only white group we have in this. I've never been a huge fan of Beastie Boys. I acknowledge their influence on music, the idea of taking elements of rock and taking elements of punk and taking elements of hip hop and merging them all together, right? Run DMC sort of did that, but they sort of didn't do it as entwined into their music as the Beastie Boys, right? Like they got Aerosmith into a song, but like the Beastie Boys were rock, they were punk, they were rap. So I acknowledge their influence on music. To me, and they have some classic songs, don't get me wrong, but to me, just personally, I'm going to put them in the C tier. Next up, we got Big Timers. Not necessarily the most prolific group. I mean, they're, more producers, more, Birdman's more of a music mogul. I love their song. Oh God, why can't I think of the name right now? I didn't do any research ahead of this because I wanted to do it off the top of my dome. Gator boots, I'm still fly. You know that song. I love that song. Like it's one of my favorite early 2000s hip hop songs. But let's be honest, like they weren't that prolific as a group. You know, Manny Fresh is more of a producer now. Birdman's more in the music industry side of things, although a bad one according to Lil Wayne. I'm gonna put the Big Timers at E tier. Next up, we've got Black Star. So I love Black Star. I love listening to their album. They're just such great lyricists, such great rappers. Again, not the most like prolific group. Like they don't have any like huge hits. They don't have like if you walked up to your average person on the street and you said, "Who's in Black Star?" They'd be like, "I don't even know." But I love them. I'm going B tier for Black Star. Next up, we got Bone Thugs and Harmony. Maybe the best rap singing group in this within these groups right here. Some great melody writers, some great chorus writers, some big hits too that have lasted a long time. It's the first of the month. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. To me, though, their sound has become a little bit stale over time. Maybe stale is not the right word, but like dated a little bit. And so simply because of that, I'm going to put Bone Thugs D tier. Next up, we got one of my favorite groups out right now, Brockhampton. Now, they call themselves an American boy band, but they're really a hip-hop group. They sing, but really the founding members base themselves as rappers, and even some of the singers rap. So to me, they're a hip hop group. I think they're one of the most unique bands of the modern era. Their sound is unique. They've got political lyrics. They've got they go deep into mental health, which is not like which a lot of the old school rappers don't really do. I really like Brockhampton. I want to put them B. To be honest with you, I want to put them B, but I think too many people will be mad that I have them ahead of Beastie Boys and the Roots, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna put them C. I want to put them B. If it wasn't for all you political based people out there, they're gonna yell at me for it. I'm gonna put them C just for that. City Girls, man, I like the City Girls. They're taking this industry by storm. Their debut album was one of the best debut albums, I think, from a girl group in recent memory, for sure. They're both great rappers. They go hard. I think their lyrics could use a little bit, like they talk a little bit too much about like dudes with money. Maybe I'm being ignorant, but that's how I feel. I listened to their whole debut album. I love that debut album, but sometimes I'm like, all right, let's hear something more than like I want a guy who has money. So because of that alone, I want to put them C tier for their skill, but I want to put them D tier because I just want to see a little bit more lyricism out of them. You know what I mean? Next up, we got Clips, which is Pusha T and his brother. They've got some big songs, actually, for such a kind of obscure hip-hop group. But, their reign wasn't extremely long, and obviously Pusha went to do his own solo stuff and has sort of made his name there. So I'm going to put them on E tier for now. Next up, we have D12. My band, because they're all on me because I want to hold hands. Again, this is like a group that kind of hit when I was like a preteen. I remember watching like MTV Jams, and like a lot of their music videos used to air on MTV Jams. Obviously they have like a superstar in the group, a solo superstar, which is Eminem, and like the rest of the members are sort of his sort of homies from back in the day, and they're great rappers, don't get me wrong, but they don't have, being next to Eminem, it sort of dims their light a little bit and sort of dims the overall band's light a little bit. And they've got great songs, catchy songs, funny songs, but to me, they don't push anything above an E tier, just for me personally. All right. Next up, we've got De La Soul. I freaking love De La Soul. I don't know if I've ever heard a De La Soul song and been like, eh. Like, even their sort of more experimental hip-hop songs, I still love them. They're poetic. They are jazzy. They're just hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, I just love them so much. So I want to put them S tier, but for me, they just don't have the hits that can put them in an S tier for me. So I'm gonna put them in A tier with a caveat of like, if they just had like a couple more hits, like if I could walk up to people and be like, hey, tell me a De La Soul song, and they'd be like, oh, I know at least one, I put them in S tier. But I don't think that's like, if I walked up to somebody on the street, I don't think they could name a De La Soul song. So I'm gonna put them A tier. Next up, we've got Wu-Tang Clan. Now, Wu-Tang Clan is the sort of mythical rap group of the rap world, right? Everybody loves the Wu. So many different members in and out. You know, they've got their core members of Redman, Method Man, Ghostface, RZA, Dirty Old Bastard. You know, some like really iconic rappers in their own right? That are all in a group together. They've even got a huge hit, right, that everybody knows. Again, I didn't think of this ahead of time, so I'm really debating. I'm like in between A and B tier with Wu-Tang, because to me, like, people sort of overhype them a little bit, but not really. I'm going to go B tier just because I feel like individually they have rappers that could take him to A tier. Like individual rappers in the group that are so iconic that it's like, how are they not in A tier? But as a group, they're almost too prolific in a way. I know that sounds weird, but like their catalog is so kind of crazy and widespread and deep, and it's hard to follow sometimes. So like maybe it's just a fault of my own that I haven't dug deep enough into like their really deep tracks that to put them in A tier. But because of that, I'm gonna put them in B tier. UGK, Kings of Texas, rest in peace, Pimp C. I don't know if there's a group with a more iconic sound than UGK. Like when you turn on the UGK song, I'm like, oh, there's UGK. Like you always know it's a UGK song. And they've got hits. And they've got Bun B, who on his own is a great solo rapper. I'm going to go B tier with UGK. I could go A tier, honestly. I'm close to going A tier with UGK, but I'm going to go B tier. Just because I just don't think they're quite as iconic as someone as like the Fugees or De La Soul. But I'm regretting it already. But they're in B tier, so there it is. Next up, we got G-Unit. G-Unit. Again, another band from my preteen era. I don't know if there's a group that did sort of 2000s gangster rap better than G-Unit, right? And obviously, again, they've got solo artists in there that are iconic. I mean, 50 Cent is an iconic artist. The background players of G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, Tony Yayo, they're all great rappers in their own right, but they don't pull a hard enough punch for me. Like they've got one iconic guy, the rest are all great rappers, but they don't quite reach level iconic in my mind. So because of that, I'm going to go D tier for G-Unit. Next up, we've got A Tribe Called Quest. I'm going to be frank with you guys. Tribe Called Quest is my favorite hip-hop group of all time. There's not an album every album I listen to that is a Tribe album, I can listen front to back without skipping a song. They're creative, they're witty, they're, pioneers of weirdo rap and thinking abstractly and being real artists. So to me, Tribe's a no-brainer. We got our first S tier, folks. First S tier. Next up, we got Gangstar. Now we've got DJ Premier and Guru. Two pioneers of hip-hop. Two icons of hip-hop. Every Gangstar song I listen to, I love. Guru is such a freaking good rapper, and Premier just has one of the best ears in hip-hops. Hip-hop, not hip-hops. Hip-hop. That being said, for me, maybe I'm a little too young to fully appreciate their discography. I mean, they've got a classic album, right? But For me, I'm gonna put them for now. And this might get people mad at me that I'm putting them in the same tier as Brockhampton. But look, I fucking love Brockhampton. I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna put them C tier. Now everybody's like, dude, Brockhampton and Gangstar? Are you kidding me? Dude, I love both of them. I love both of them. All right, next up we've got Mobb Deep. Mobb Deep was probably the first real gangster group I got into as a kid, like true gangster group. I mean, they've got classic songs. Like, there's not a ton of really poetic gangster rappers like Mobb Deep that also have hits and that also kind of just go hard on every song. Again, I keep getting into these groups with like UGK, Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep, where I'm like stuck between A and B. I'm really stuck between A and B here. I think they've got just as many classic songs, I think, probably as UGK. I don't know if I can put them above UGK and Wu-Tang. They're on a par with all these guys in my mind, so I'm going to put them B tier. And again, I feel pretty solid about 3-6 Mafia and Black Star being B tier. These three are hovering between A and B for me. I don't know. For me. TLC, my favorite female rap group of all time. I mean, you want to talk about hits? I mean, you want to talk about songs that last? I mean, don't go chasing waterfalls. I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that don't get no love from me. I used to work at a bar in, the 2014, 2013, 2012-ish, that range. And they still played, the DJs would still play TLC songs all the time, and people would rock out to them. They made All That theme song. Let me say this clearly. They made the All That theme song. I love TLC. They're such a perfect combination of rappers and singers. This might surprise people. I don't know. Maybe I'm not surprising people. Maybe I am. I don't know. S tier. S tier. TLC is S tier for me. Now we've got probably one of the pioneers of gangster rap, NWA. We've got 3 of the 5 members, iconic rappers: Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Eazy-E. I think it's MC Red and MC Yellow, the other 2 members of the group, who obviously did not get as big solo as the other 3 members did. When I was growing up, I loved NWA. Since I've gotten older, they've kind of aged on me a little bit in terms of their sound. They still have iconic hits. I mean, Express Yourself is still one of my favorite songs. I was about to put them D tier, but that might be doing them dirty. But I don't want to put them. All right, I'm putting them C tier. I can't put them D tier. I can't put them D tier. I was about to, but I was just like, nah, I cannot put them D tier. Yeah, I can't do it. Public Enemy, maybe one of the most iconic rap songs of all time. Like white 50-year-old politically active women, no fight the power, right? Like, everybody knows that song. Also, probably their song Fight the Power is probably used in the most iconic way in cinema as well, in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Flavor Flav has sort of tarnished his credibility over the years with doing reality TV and kind of acting a fool a lot. Chuck D's still, the man. But for me, and again, maybe this is just I haven't gone deep enough into their discography. Maybe I'm just a little too young. I'm 28. I was born in 1992. I'm going to go C tier with Public Enemy. Now, my C tier and my B tier are kind of full. That's interesting. I guess those are groups I love that I don't want to put super high, but I also don't want to do them dirty and put them low. But yeah. Mike Will made it. Mike Will made this group for sure. Ray Shremmerd. They got really big when I was at the end of to when I was graduating from college, the first year out. And I just remember they were great to play at parties. And later on, I actually listened to Shrem Life and Shrem Life 2 or whatever their albums are called, 1 and 2. And like, I actually like listened to those albums front to back. Like, I actually like those albums. And probably a lot of people shit on them, but I really like their music. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm not going to go S or A. I'm not gonna go B, but I'm gonna go C tier for Ray Shremmer. And this might be a controversial pick. People might say they're F tier, they're E tier. But to me, I really like their music. I don't know what to tell you. Run DMC. I just have never gotten into Run DMC. I know their songs. I know their hits. They're iconic. They are boundary pushers. They are culture makers. They deserve to be respected. But like I said, this is not a political list. This is a list that is subjective. I'm going to be honest. It's subjective. It's my list, but I wanted to create a tier list with rap groups. For me, Run DMC, D tier. You're going to say I'm crazy. I know that. I know people are going to be like, that is insane. And my thing is, like, I've never sat down. Like, every other group here, I've sat down and been like, I want to listen to them today. I don't think I've ever sat down and been like, I'm going to turn on a Run DMC song today. And maybe that's my age showing again. You know, like, older hip-hop fans are probably laughing at me right now. And that's fine. I deserve to be laughed at. I'll say that. I deserve to be laughed at for that pick. But I need to be true to myself on this tier list. People are going to be so mad. D tier. Run the Jewels. Two great rappers who never found themselves in their solo career. I mean, they did, right? Like, they're both great rappers. They both have worked, you know, Killer Mike was on early Outcast albums. I mean, who else can say that? You know what I mean? But when they combined, it was like, when LP and Killer Mike combined, it was like God had created the perfect fusion for rap fans. And since then, they have just rocked the rap world, really. Put themselves on the map in a great way. I'm stuck between C and B tier. Like, I don't think they live up to my B tier. Maybe 3-6 Mafia they do. 3-6 Mafia is a personal pick. I know most people would be like, 3-6 Mafia B tier. I know. But that's just me, right? I love 3-6 Mafia. They hit at a certain time in my life. The thing is, like, when groups hit at a certain time in your life, they might outweigh other groups that are maybe on paper better, right? But 3-6 Mafia just hit in my life where I was, like, really into hip-hop. I really love 3-6 Mafia. Anyways, I don't want to explain myself any more than that. Do I think Run the Jewels are better than 3-6 Mafia? Yes. On paper. Do I think they're better than Black Star, Wu-Tang, UGK, and Mobb Deep? No. So because of that, just because of that, I'm going to put them C tier. Okay, so you may have just noticed that another rap group has magically appeared on our tier list through the magic of editing. I forgot to put Outcast in here, which I can't forget to put. So Outcast is now added to our tier list. Now, Outcast is my second favorite rap group of all time, behind A Tribe Called Quest. So you're probably guessing we're in this upper range here. Now, I think the other month it was the 20th anniversary of Stankonia. I think it had come out in like late 2000. And I re-listened to that album in full. And that's not even my favorite album of theirs. And it was still so good. It like blew my mind how good it was. It blew my mind like the creative genius that is Andre 3000 and Big Boy. I mean, complete creative genius that are these two rappers. And not only do they have like the deep cuts for real hip hop heads, they've got huge international hits. Miss Jackson, Hey Ya, So Fresh and So Clean. I mean, songs that everybody sings at the club, everybody sings at the bar. To me, like, it's a complete no-brainer that Outkast is S tier. Complete no-brainer for me. I don't know if anybody would argue. Like, maybe people might argue these two as S tier based on personal taste, but I don't know if I could run into many people that could argue that Outcast is not S tier. Okay, so our list is done. Let's review. So we got Tribe, we got TLC, and we got Outcast in the S tier. We've got my A tier is pretty thin. I didn't quite realize that. Again, I didn't think about where I was gonna put these groups before ahead of time. I wanted to like try to do it live. My A list is pretty small, just Fugees and De La Soul. B tier, we got 3-6 Mafia, Black Star, Wu-Tang Clan, UGK, and Mobb Deep. This is like probably like my, these are like the gods. This is like probably everybody has at least these four somewhere in the top, right? Like UGK, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, they're all just classic groups. My C tier is probably my weirdest tier because it goes from anywhere from like the Beastie Boys to Ray Shrummer to Run the Jewels to NWA to Brockhampton. I think I use my C tier sort of as like, I don't want to put them in A or B or S. I don't want to do them dirty. So out of respect, I'm putting them in the C tier. We got Roots, Beastie Boys, Brockhampton, Gangstar, NWA, Public Enemy, Ray Shrummer, Run the Jewels. D tier. D tier was sort of where I started to lose a lot of my like fanboy, like complete fanboy fandom, like groups that I like. I mean, for me, City Girls could rise. It's just that they're so new that I can't put them in S, A, B, or C. Bone Thugs, again, they feel a little dated to me. G Unit just, I mean, they've got great songs, but they just don't quite crack a C or B for me. Run DMC is probably, I mean, the older hip hop heads are probably gonna murk me for that one. It's just a personal preference. E is where like I'm starting to lose my fandom here. Like, yeah, I still listen to these guys a lot. I mean, maybe people are like, why'd you put Big Timers on your list? I think I got excited and I was like, oh, I should put Big Timers on my list because no one's gonna think about them. And I do love some of their songs, but they can't crack above E for me. Clips, I love Pusha. I don't really know his brother that well. They've got some good songs, but I can't put them above E. D12, like I really liked D12 back in the day, but I just haven't listened to them in years. So for me, because of that, I just can't put them any higher. All right, so that's my tier list. I'd be interested what people think. Try not to roast me too hard, but where would you move some of these groups? Would you move them up? Would you move them down? Do you think I placed them right? I want to know. Tell me. Thanks for tuning in.